Let's look a little bit more into meditation. So, we know that the last four limbs have to do with practicing meditation, whereas the first four limbs have to do with preparing the mind body for meditation. So, we want to incorporate all those together in order to be successful in our meditation practice. So, that fifth limb of yoga, that pratyahara, the first limb of starting meditation, is really important because it has to do with withdrawing our senses. Now, nowadays where we are, we're overstimulated, we're always connected. We have a smartphone, we're always watching TV, there's things everywhere, screens everywhere. We're always doing something with the mind to keep it busy. Now, the biggest challenge is to keep the mind still, because when we keep the mind still, we get all the benefits of meditation and we sort of relax, we bring more focus, we tend not to be overly emotional as much, and life just seems to be better where we can feel good in a feel good place and release as we release the stress. So our senses are a connection to the outside world. And sometimes we can be, like I said, overstimulated with those senses. So that pratyahara limb is to sort of withdraw those senses to really bring concentration into the moment. So taking the mind out of the past or the future. So we really start to shut off those senses, and this is where we go into how we should meditate and where we should meditate and the most optimal way to meditate. So we get into, we want to meditate in a darker place where our eyes aren't distracted by things that we see, a quiet place where we're not distracted by outside noise, and a place where maybe somebody is not cooking dinner and you're distracted by the good smell. Just whatever, and we want to be comfortable. We want to sit comfortable. We want the spine to be nice and long in order for that prana, going back to breath, that life energy to flow through and really connect. So we have to be as comfortable as possible without being disturbed and being drawn away from what we're meditating upon. So that pratyahara limb is that first practice of setting an intention to start meditating. So I always say a comfortable way to meditate at first is sitting in a chair. Traditionally, that's obviously sitting on the floor. Or sitting on a meditation pillow cushion. We really want to sit. And it's hard for our Western bodies aren't meant to sit on the floor because we don't have to. And most of us are in chairs sitting all day. Our hips end up in the suboptimal position because our cores are weak. And if we have a hard time sitting on the ground, we're going to have a hard time in sitting meditation. But we don't want to lie down in meditation either, just for the fact that we can fall asleep for one, so then we're not really practicing meditation, we're just taking a nap. And also, it's how that energy aligns. We really want that root energy aligned, like think of like poles, like North and South Pole. We really want the root energy toward the earth and the crown energy toward the sun. So we want that energy to polarize that way. And if we're lying down, we are not flowing up and down, we're flowing side to side, and not optimal for our prana to flow that way. So sitting in a chair is probably best, both feet on the floor and sitting nice and tall. And then finding that optimal space where you won't be disturbed, where somebody's not going to walk in on you and you lose your train of concentration. Like I said, we want to make sure that somebody's not cooking dinner and then you're like, oh, that smells good, I can't wait. And then you start getting hungry and thinking about food. And then a darker place where you're not looking around and there's people moving or things moving or TV on, all those types of things that can distract you. So pratyahara. So then the next step of practicing yoga is called dharana, and dharana is where we're like finding something to concentrate on and focus. Now in meditation, to begin with, it is okay to pick one thing to concentrate on. So often times I have an altar in my house, which I don't really stare at anymore, but you can build an altar with little things that bring happiness to you, you know, pictures and symbols and statues and candles and all those things. Um, I sit and meditate. I look out my bedroom window, and in the summer it's really nice. There's a lot of birds in my yard, colorful birds that I like to look at and concentrate on, just looking at nature. But you could choose anything. So we want to choose one thing though. So we're going to look at a little bit of different ways to meditate using one sense at a time. So like I said, for me, I'm a sight person. I like looking at birds or looking at nature. So I find something to focus on that way. You might like sounds, so we're going to talk about mantra and music and sound yoga. You might just want to listen to something and focus on the sound. We can, as we eat, it can be a moving meditation where we're really tasting the food and the texture of the food and slowly chewing the food. I know I eat really fast, working in the hospital forever. If you didn't eat real fast, you might not eat at all. So I remind myself to slow down as I'm eating. Smell, we can burn incense or use essential oils. We'll talk a little bit more about essential oils coming up. And then touch. So we can touch crystals. You know, if you like crystals, we'll talk a little bit more about crystals too. Or we'll talk about mudras, just bringing the hands in a specific pattern in order to redirect energy. So those are some of the things that we can bring concentration on as we're focusing on meditation. And guided meditation is really good. We'll do one with this section. So we'll look at guided meditation. Sometimes it's nice just to listen to somebody's words and let that guide you. And then again, that sound. So, and then we create, can't say it. Imaginization, you know, we imagine that, I don't even know if that's a word, but here we go. Imagining something in our mind with whatever the teacher is saying and focusing upon. So that's where we start to get into that second before last limb, dhyana, is when we're actually in that meditative zone. Our brain waves are very minimal. So if you hook up electrodes to your head, you know your brain has electrical activity. So when we're focused awake on our phones, driving our cars, doing things, our brain waves are more like that. Whereas if we're asleep, and different stages of sleep, our brain waves start to slow down just to a small pattern like that, where it's just very steady, very calm, very focused. So that's the state we want to get our brain waves to when we're meditating without falling asleep. So that's dhyana. And then finally, samadhi is the state of bliss that, mixing all those limbs together, we should feel no matter what happens, no matter what comes by and tries to ruin our day, because we can only ruin our day based on how we think about it. So we can always change our perceptions of it and not let it ruin our day. And looking at situations that can be difficult, feeling the emotion but not holding on to that emotion, and being in that state no matter what happens to us. Allow that stress to just flow through instead of holding on to it all the time. And that's that samadhi state where we learn this is life. We're learning lessons. Things happen for reasons, and sometimes those reasons we can't understand. So that's meditation in a nutshell. And we will do a guided meditation this week, keeping those things in mind. So until next time, see you guys soon.